Yo, salute to my man Domingo first and foremost. But look, Media Famous, the #1 artist services and music distribution in the fucking world. You heard? If you an artist, you trying to get your music heard, I'm telling you, Big Gorilla, don't ever disrespect me and not fuck with Media Famous. You heard? Bing bong.
Yeah. Since y'all like jewels, I'ma drop a jewel. Makes the money, rappers act like fools. The blind lead the blind, we all blinded by the shine. Bad boys dying like Biggie just to go to jail like Shine. I ain't got to diss rappers, these rappers diss they self. Ride with Donald Trump like they ain't got knowledge of they self. Knowledge as well, but I keep that thing up on the shelf. Jacob make you freeze, but the feds will make you melt. Everybody want the belt, who want the crown in New York? Everything sound like Atlanta, the world clown in New York. They call me niggas the most high, my niggas be the most high. Cause we stay burning bush like Mount Sinai. Soldiers don't die, gangsters don't cry, but when rappers get killed, they go to the place where people lie. 85 is civilized, 10% capitalized, 5 others realize hip-hop is in disguise.
Bringing back that old New York rap. Bringing back that old New York rap. Bringing back that old New York rap. Bringing back that old New York rap.
Nowadays, niggas don't want the real hip-hop. They rather hear that shit meant to kill hip-hop. Who deal around the clock, who ill with the Glock. 10 years done past, you still on the block. You still selling rocks, serving fiends non-stop. You worse than a snitch, nigga, you dealing for the cops. Niggas lay traps, then scream trap or die. Like, all we got is that, or we can stay black and die. If relaxing with the lie, but the facts won't lie. Another rapper died, everybody asks why. Take some chump change, get yourself a chump chain. Go juice some little crew, have them pump pain. You can G off with the rap, but you gotta master that. Don't try to drop no science, you better all pump and crack. Serving Mr. Magic Friday nights rap attack. Saying it's somehow a Jersey nigga bringing New York back.
Bringing back that old New York rap. Bringing back that old New York rap. Bringing back that old New York rap. Bringing back that old New York rap.
Yeah, it's your boy Hakeem Green, channel live and direct. BDP all day, every day. All we do, spark Mad IZM here on Mad IZM TV, where we try to bring you nothing but the culture. You know what I mean? I'm trying to bring you folks who represent the culture to the absolute fullest. And tonight's guest is, somebody who just does just that through and through. Brooklyn, stand up. Let me bring in the mighty DJ, Mr. C. What's up, broski?
What's good with you, man? How are you, man?
Oh, man, everything's good, man. I appreciate you so much for taking some time and sitting with Mad IZM TV.
First and foremost, before we start, I got to ask you, today is the day with our guy, Do It All. How is he doing in the polls? Do you have any update?
You know what? Man, I'm ashamed. I should know what's going on right now, but I've been so busy setting up for this show and getting ready for tonight that I haven't really got a chance to check in. I figured I was gonna circle back right after we got off.
Okay.
And just so the folks out there know, we got our brother Do It All Kelly, Dupre Kelly, running for Westward City Council in Newark, New Jersey. Team Baraka all day, every day. It's my brother. He's been doing some great things out there. And Mr. C, thank you for being supportive of the campaign and representing hip hop. You know what I mean?
For all that don't know about Dupre Kelly, he's part of Lords of the Underground.
Yes, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir.
We're trying to make history tonight for him to be the first hip hop MC to be elected into office.
Yeah, elected in any capacity in government. You know what I mean? So
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So, but this is about you, brother. You know, Madism TV. You know, of course, I'll be rolling up and smoking as we go along. But you know, it's a way to kind of, you know, establish hip hop's claim in the cannabis community, and you know, seeing as though we like to represent hip hop to the fullest, having folks on like yourself, I think is just dope and important. And you know, with that said, I kind of want to get to the beginning, let folks know, like, you know who you are, where you come from, like day one, because you know, you're day one Brooklyn.
I'm day one Brooklyn, born and raised in Brooklyn, at Cumberland Hospital, in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn. That's the hospital where I was born. I was, you know, raised in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. Raised by my parents until I was like 5.5 years old, somewhere around 5.5. I wasn't 6 yet, that I know. And then I moved to my grandparents' house, which was like 5 blocks away from where my mother and father lived. We actually, the reason me and my 3 brothers, we moved into my grandparents' house is because my mother and father, we had a fire. There was a fire in my mother and father's house when I was 5.5 years old. And the crazy thing is that I'm the person that started the fire.
Wow.
Yeah. My father was like a hustler. He used to run numbers and everything. And my mother, you know, God bless her. My mother and father's no longer here, but God bless both of them. But my mother, you know, she used to, you know, use drugs a lot and drink a lot. And so my mother left me in the house at 5.5 years old to take care of my 3 brothers. And she told me to cook breakfast up for them, you know, and here it is. I'm 5.5 years old, standing on top of a little table or a chair or some type of little mini ladder trying to cook eggs and bacon for my 3 little brothers. And I wound up starting the fire with the stove. And so you know, the fire started spreading, and then word got to my father because he was up the street on Fulton Street.
Thank God.
And where he was hustling at, and word got to him, and he got us out of there. But you know, my baby brother, my brother Shannon, he was in the crib at the time. He was a baby. He was in the crib. So I was 5.5. He was 3, 2. He was like 1 year old in the crib. And so me and my other 2 brothers had got out, and my baby brother Shannon was like stuck in the house in the fire. My father had to go in the house, burning house, and he had to actually literally jump over the burning bed in my parents' room. He had to get a running start and jump over the bed because the bed was like lit up. He had to jump over the bed to get my brother, and then jump back over the bed.
Yeah, that's superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that moment, I guess, you know, parents, something clicks, and it's like,
he saved my baby brother, and you know, he's still, you know, my brother's still here to this day. And so from there, we moved to my grandparents' house. My grandparents on my mother's side, and I lived a place called Lafayette Garden Projects in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn.
Yeah,
we called it LG for short.
The LG, yeah.
And I was with my grandparents from 5.5 years old until I was 21. And then ironically, when I left my grandparents' house, I moved right back to where I originally lived at with my mother and father. We lived on my mother and father, we lived on a street called Gates Avenue.
I know Gates.
So then when I moved to my grandparents' house at LG, 5 blocks up, and then when I was 21 and moved back to Gates and got a like the top apartment my great grandmother's house, because we was when my mother and father, when we was growing up living on Gates Avenue, it was actually my great grandparents' house, and we had the top apartment. So at 21, circle back, you know, I moved right back to my great grandmother's house and lived on that same top floor where the fire was at with my parents. I lived there for a couple of years, and then I moved right directly next door. My uncle took over the house next door, and I moved next door, and moved to the top apartment there as well. And that's where I spent my early part of my adult life, from the Kane days, days.
Yeah. Well, before we get there, because just to give you the heads up, I don't know if you know, I lived on Waverly between Fulton and Gates for about 2 years, and
Oh, I never knew that. What year?
I was there from '98 to 2004.
Oh,
I
wow.
was on Waverly first, and then I moved to Washington between Gates and Fulton, 506 Washington. I was there from '99 to 2004.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved to Hall and Myrtle. Yeah, I was all over Brooklyn, all through
I never knew that.
90s, and no, for sure.
You was right up the street. You was right up the street from where I was.
And I lived down the hall from Easy Mo B for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, on Clinton Avenue. Yep, it's all over. But now, when we talk about Brooklyn, and just we talk about the foundation of hip hop, the birth of hip hop culture. We talk about the Bronx a lot, and we get to picture the Bronx, whatever. But just looking at New York City in a capsule and what was going on in Brooklyn, we talking about the 70s. You had a fire, you were 5 years old. You talking about that's like the early 70s, right? Coming up, just to New York, the bankruptcy in New York, the poverty in New York, just the feeling of New York was like, if you ever see the movie The Warriors, coming from Jersey, that's what New York was for me. And then we used to go to Reese Beach every summer,
right,
from like 75, 76. So then Flatbush Avenue, going up Flatbush Avenue was how I remember Brooklyn. But can you give us more details about what the environment of Brooklyn was like during this time?
I mean, you pretty much hit it on the head. Like if anybody ever watched the movie The Warriors, the old train stations with the graffiti on it, and graffiti on outside of the train and inside of the train, the litter. Like as far as garbage being all over the place in the street everywhere. And then but it was still a great time in Brooklyn, like, just opening up the Johnny pumps, the fire hydrants, and we call it Johnny pump because we open up the Johnny pumps and let the water. So if you ever seen movies like The Warriors, or if you ever seen a movie like Crooklyn, Spike Lee movie Crooklyn, where they showed opening up the fire hydrant and how we used to take a soda can and scrape off the top of the soda can, the top and the bottom of the soda can, to where we open up the soda can and we can use it to let the water flow through the Johnny pump.
Yeah. You can direct it. Direction
and where the water's
cars coming through.
Right. That's vintage Brooklyn right there. Between that and even taking it further, like with Halloween, we wasn't trick-or-treating in Halloween in those days in Brooklyn. We would put a bunch of chalk in a sock, a bunch of thick pieces of chalk, normally colored chalk, like red, blue chalk, and we would like just hit each other with the big chalk, and or we would go to people's apartment door and use the big sock with all the full of chalk in it and just bang on people's door with the chalk, and the chalk was so thick and heavy that it would put dents and people's apartment door.
Why?
With just dumb mischievous kitty stuff that that's what we did. Take it even further, Hakeem. Like we used to during Halloween we used to make Molotov cocktails, and we used to take a 40-ounce bottle of Old English and put a little bit of gasoline in it. And then put some paper on top of the 40-ounce, and then we light up the 40, or put a towel in there or something, and then we light up the towel or the paper into the gasoline, and we throw it, and then we throw it at a car. And we would throw it at a car and light the car up. Like just dumb stuff like that. That was Brooklyn.
That was Brooklyn. I mean, to me, that was like, coming from Jersey again, that was like New York City was just wild, crazy.
Wow,
like when you turn on the news, you got 2, 4, 5, 7, 9. That's it. So you turn on the news, and they're just giving you like just the craziest news out of New York City. The murder rate was just skyrocketed.
Yeah,
like gangs. So when I was like,
we had the gangs in Brooklyn. Like the Jolly Stompers, and I remember. In particular, we got a park in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, called Tompkins Park. It's now called Von King Park.
Yeah.
But there was like an infamous story where like they hung a gang member back in like the late 70s, like they on a tree in Tompkins Park. You know, just ruthless stories like that. But and I had two brothers, my two younger brothers. I'm the oldest out of my, you know, me and my three brothers, and I'm the oldest. And my two brothers was heavily into the street, into selling drugs and into the street. And you know, as we got older, they got heavily into it. And it actually them being heavily into the drug game and selling drugs and robbing, going to, you know, they used to say, we're going to mid, we're going to go to mid. That means they're going to Midtown to take somebody's purse. So that was the slang. We go, yo, we going to mid today. And they go to Midtown Manhattan, like the 42nd Street area, and rob people's purses and stuff like that. So, but you know, unfortunately, it was fortunate for me, but what was fortunate about my two brothers being in the street was that they was my little big brother. My brother Knowledge and my brother D, like they was my little big brother, because I started DJing when I was like 12. So I was doing house parties like 13, 14 years old. I'm DJing in the park or doing house parties 13, 14 years old. And I was a straight nerdy kid. I was like very nerdy and very, you know, the glasses, the nappy hair, the straight nerd. But because I had two brothers that was heavily in the street, nobody never used to mess with me. They used to be like, that's Knowledge and Baby D brother. Don't mess with Knowledge and Baby D brother. They never knew my name. You know what I mean? Like I was just a DJ from the neighborhood, but they never knew my name is Calvin or whatever. They just like, don't mess with him. That's Knowledge and Baby D brother.
But you was the oldest brother.
I'm the oldest.
But they're your older baby brothers, because they was in the
right, because
street.
they was in the street and they was they didn't like protect me like because they had a reputation.
Yeah, it was already understood.
Everybody knew, like, don't mess with this guy right here. That's Knowledge and Baby D brother. And that's how I was able to survive that era of the early DJing in the late 70s and develop my craft and DJ house parties and park jams because nobody messed with me because of my two brothers.
Yeah. Now, when I, you know, that era of Brooklyn, you know, actually right before the movie The Education of Sonny Carson. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
You know what? I never saw that movie, and I'm a movie buff.
Wow,
I'm a movie buff, and
bro,
and Hakeem, I am 200% sure I have that movie in my house. I never watched that movie,
but I'm sure people have told you about it. Probably,
absolutely.
Like the Fort Greene Park scene.
Yeah.
That's gonna blow you away. The gang fight at Prospect Park. That's gonna blow you away. But then, you know, the reason why I'm trying to paint this picture is to give folks an idea of what hip hop culture was born out of, right? So when you say your brothers was in the street, and you know the street culture, as dangerous it was, you could find solace and shelter in street culture because you was good. And with your DJing, you could challenge, instead of throwing Molotov cocktails at cars. I would assume you redirected that energy into something constructive.
No question, because like I said, you know, once I started DJing at 12 and then doing the park jams and all the other stuff that I was, the park jams, the house parties, I started like doing this stuff at an early age. And the only thing that was able for me to get away with doing that is because of my two younger brothers. So my brother Knowledge is no longer here. He died in '93. My brother D is still here. My brother D, he actually manages groups, LeBron Management. That's my government last name. So he manages a couple of artists. And so, you know, it was to the point back then where, like, let's say if I'm in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, but I had to do a party in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Back then, we used to take the DJ equipment on the city bus, on the MTA bus, all the speakers, the turntables, the records.
What?
We used to take all of that on the bus and maybe take a straight shot, because I lived on Lafayette Avenue, and we'll take a straight shot down to, you know, Lafayette, go straight into Bushwick. We take a straight shot down into Bushwick Avenue and get off, and we would have shopping carts, like big, you know, A&P, if you remember the shopping A&P or Key Food or whatever, and we would put all the equipment, the records, turntables, speakers, and put it on the shopping carts between that and dollies, and get on the bus. Back then, they would allow you to get on the bus with DJ equipment, and that's
That's
how
crazy.
we was getting to hood to hood. It was on the bus.
You talking about late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah, like late 70s, early 80s. That's how I was able to go around different sections of Brooklyn to DJ parties.
Right. And like, you know, folks gotta understand how important that shit is, right? And we talk about, you know, then versus now, right? And you know, I like to point out like how many doors was closed to us. Like, you know, mainstream culture is ubiquitous in the 70s and 80s on TV, radio. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you don't see many of us, right? And then us trying to break down doors is now we're gonna take the equipment on the bus.
Right, on the city bus.
On the city bus.
We're paying the regular price. So what back then, you know, whether it was 50 cents or whatever the regular price was for the bus at that time, 50 cents, 75 cents, we taking a bus, and there was no restrictions back then as far as what you can bring on the bus. And we're bringing the whole DJ set on the bus. Crates, everything on the bus. But that was, you know, that was the determination that we had. You know, we didn't know we was, you know, I didn't know, or we didn't know we was breaking barriers, or we didn't know how determined we was. We just knew we had to get to a gig. We had a house party to do in Bushwick or somewhere, and we knew. Now we wouldn't take the bus to East New York or to Brownsville. That's a little bit further out. That's more like 30, 45 minutes away. But Bushwick to Bed-Stuy to Bushwick is like in a straight shot on a bus. That's like literally 7 minutes. You know what I mean? 7 to 10 minutes.
I don't care if you was going 2 blocks. The idea of carrying, first of all, you gotta get it from. I'm assuming you live in an apartment building. You gotta get it downstairs and on the elevator. How you gotta get it there? Then you gotta sit there and wait for the bus with your stuff.
Whether it was summer and it was hot as hell, or whether it was winter and it was cold as shit.
But people gotta hear these stories because this is not, you know, my flash drive and let me just plug in. Like, you know, this is determination and love for what's going on, love for the culture, right?
This is straight legwork with crates and crates and speakers and amps and everything. Is just the dedication and the love for what myself and some of my other DJ friends at that time, the love and the dedication that we had to do what we was doing. You know what I mean? I started DJing through my uncle. My uncle Barry was a DJ. Rest in peace to him. And him and my next door neighbor Anthony, they started DJing, and I'm 11 and a half years old watching them DJ, and my uncle would never let me play on his set. So my next door neighbor Anthony, he had the better DJ setup than my uncle anyway. So I used to go next door to my next door neighbor Anthony's set and ask him what, can I play on the set? And he would leave me in his room. Like, he would leave the apartment with his mother and father and just leave me in there to practice. And that's how I slowly but surely got to learn my craft is practicing and being on my next door neighbor Anthony's set. Between him and my uncle, just being around them, that's how I learned how to DJ. And my neighbors, Easy Mo B, legendary producer, Easy Mo B was my neighbor. I lived on the 8th floor. He lived on the 11th floor.
Rappers fundamental.
Right. He was my neighbor. So him and Witch Doctor, another producer, produced a lot of songs on the Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die album. They lived directly next door to each other on the 11th floor, and I lived on the 8th floor. So I used to go to myself and Witch Doctor, we used to go to Easy Mo B house and just practice and practice and practice. And what I used to do was Easy Mo B and Witch Doctor, they were so much more advanced than I was on the set. I used to steal their cuts and scratches and what they used to do because they wasn't really able to go outside and play in the park or play in the house parties. So I used to steal what they did and then use it outside. So really, amongst everybody in the projects, everybody thought I was one of the nicest DJs in the project. Everybody thought I'm the nicest, but I was really stealing Easy Mo B and the Witch Doctor's scratch routines as much as I can steal, because they were so much more advanced than me. I was stealing it and then implementing it in the park jams, and that's how I got more famous in my neighborhood in LG in my project.
And that's quite honorable of you, Mr. C. So on that note, there's 2 things missing in hip hop culture: Word is Bond and Down by Law. Now, Down by Law, you just talked about Witch Doctor and Easy Mo B, and you basically stealing, but they had given you you was down by law, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if I was down by law, Hakeem, because I never, I don't know, because I never told them I was stealing anything. I never told, you know, back then we called it biting. Remember, we
Yeah.
called it biting.
Oh yeah, we call it biting. No biting
Right.
allowed.
So I never told them I was biting anything from them or stealing anything. They could, because remember, they was never able to come to the park jams or come to the house party, so they never really knew what I was doing. But to the projects, they thought I was. It was me and another DJ named Shimshon. He was an Israelite, and him and his brothers was like Israelite family. So people always used to compare myself and Shimshon. They used to always kind of put us against each other as two of the nicest DJs on the set in LG. And Shimshon was incredible. He's still here today. Still, me and him are still good friends. But people used to always put us up against each other. And the one thing about Shimshon and his family, his brothers was the rappers. They called themselves the Funk Masters crew. They had the best sound system in LG. They had the best sound system. And Shimshon, amongst me, we was like two of the best DJs. There was a whole generation of DJ that came before us, but we came in that era, you know, the Run DMC, the Fat Boys, the Houdini era. You know, but there was some other DJs
83, 84, 85.
Right. You know, so we came after them, after some of the other DJs from my projects, and then we kind of took it to a whole nother level. It was kind of like the Dr. J, Michael Jordan thing. You know, Dr. J one level, and then Jordan took it another, and that's what me and Shimshon did growing up in LG. And so we slowly became more popular, and then we got with this guy named Eric D. Not Eric B. We had a dude named Eric D. D as in David. And Eric D lived in our projects, and he started promoting parties. So when he started promoting parties, he started booking myself and Shimshon and a dude named MC Kane. And we all used to perform at different local places around Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, like the Sumner Armory and Willoughby Temple and Willoughby Hall. And we started performing together, and me and Kane got together. And I know I might be fast forwarding a little bit.
No, we right. I'm following along because you're telling the story. You're touching all the bases.
So you know, when I met Kane in high school, you know, I bring him around my way to LG, and then, you know, Kane became the nicest MC in our hood in LG, even though he wasn't from LG. And so when Eric D started throwing the shows, that's when matter of fact, let me see if I can get hold up.
It's about to go back. The history is real, son. Yo, you live and direct on Madison TV. Mr. C.
My flyer book is in the other room in my drawer.
He's about to pull out the old flyers.
Yeah, I'm gonna put out the old Eric D flyer.
Eric D flyers.
Give me a second. Let me get this.
All right, here we go. All right, yeah. So yeah, we live and direct, you know, on Madison TV. I'm sitting here with Mr. C, DJ Mr. C, currently of Rock the Bells Radio, doing a phenomenal job, might I add. My God, you know, that's why my radio, my knob, you know, that's why my thing stays, Rock the Bells Radio. They give me what I need in the real hip hop. You know what I'm talking about. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Big shout out to everybody in the building. Tamika, I see you. DJ Wise, salute. I'm going to ask everybody to please like, subscribe, hit that bell, and share the stream. Bring people to the conversation. We got DJ Mr. C in the building, and he's about to pull out the factuals.
So here's one flyer. This is one of the first part. The year is not on here, and I'm trying to see if Kane is on here yet. No, Kane is not on this flyer, but you'll see. Because I was down with a crew called the Magnum Force. I had a crew at MCs called the Magnum Force crew, and when I got Kane to come around my way to start rapping, he was down with my crew with the Magnum Force. It was called Mr. C and the Magnum Force crew. So this is one of the first flyers.
This is 80.
The year's not on here, but it definitely probably 83, 84. This is one of the first flyers here. Wow. And I don't know, the Mr. C, the Magnum Force would be in the middle. If you can see it. I don't know if you can see it. It's in the middle.
Screenshot that, everybody. Get that.
So that's
Got you.
you see the promoter name Eric D, right?
Eric D. Yep.
Okay. So now here's another one on the other side. And you got the Mr. C and the Magnum Force. It's gonna be somewhere over here. Am I doing it? Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
So that was one of the first ones, and then those are the first two, but it doesn't say the year on it. But these are all like the different parties that we did, and but after like the couple of the rappers that was a part of the Magnum Force with myself, a lot of them, you know, they wasn't really they stopped getting serious about the rapping.
Mr. C and the Magnum Force crew,
right? They stopped getting serious about the rapping. So me and
Roxanne,
me and Kane stuck with it, and so so here's a flyer with me and Kane on it right here. Here's one of them. I don't think the year's on it. And what Eric D started doing, he started booking artists to perform. So on this particular flyer, Biz Markie was the headline and artist performing. So we was opening up for Biz way before we got with Biz or a record deal.
So how'd you meet Biz?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But
okay.
So if you see the flyer, so that's Eric D right there.
Mm-hmm.
So now we starting to put a picture on the flyer. There go me and Kane here.
Yeah.
You see me and Kane right there?
Yes, sir. Yep. Wow. Youngins.
And you see Biz right there?
Wow. Yep.
So so that's how it, that's how it, that's how it, and one of the last ones we did, this was in 1986. This is the last one we did because it got shot up. It got shot up, and then Eric D stopped doing the shows anymore. Stopped doing it. So
Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, it was at a place called the Sumner Armory. So I'm gonna show you these last two. So now this one I'm going to show you is Eric D. He's promoting the event. He had Mr. Magic hosting it. He had Marley Marl and Shan perform with Biz again, and with Eric B and Rakim.
Wow.
And me and Kane opened up. So here's the flyer right here.
Come on.
So I'll show you.
That's crazy.
So me and Kane is right here. And we had a beatbox with us. That was the dude in the picture was the beatbox. Because back then everybody had a beatbox.
Big Daddy Kane with an E-ski.
That's Marley and Shan in the middle right there.
Yep.
And they go Eric B right there.
Eric B.
And Biz. And then this is the last one we did. The last one we did was with Salt and Pepper, Sparky D, Red Alert was DJ, I guess DJ, Dougie Fresh, Jazzy Jeff, and Fresh Prince. This is the last one we did together.
Come on, man.
You see Salt and Pepper. You Sparky D there.
Mm-hmm.
Red Alert.
Red Alert on the right. On your left. Dougie Fresh right in the center.
And they go me and Kane right over here. They go me and Kane right here.
Mr. C, Big Daddy Kane. Yep.
So that's how, that's how we, that was our early stages of, we had the great experience of performing in front of these artists. And then at the same time, we actually met Biz while we was, in high school at Sarah J. Hale High School. Cause we went to Sarah J. Hale High School together.
Mm-hmm.
And Biz used to come to the high school all the time. And that's how, we met Biz, from him coming to the high school, trying to get girls and all that type of stuff. And Kane started developing a relationship with Biz. If I remember correctly, I think they might have met at Albee Square Mall, the infamous Brooklyn Mall.
Yeah.
And they met.
Biz wrote a song about it.
Yeah, Biz wanted to battle Kane, or they tried to put Biz to battle Kane, and Kane smoked them.
Really?
And Kane smoked them. And then it was one of those. It was one of those if you can't beat them, join them things where where Biz was like, okay, I can't beat you, so won't you get down with me? And then Biz started taking Kane around to these Mike and Dave concerts. And
Mike and Dave
from the Crash Crew.
Yeah.
And they used to do like concerts and stuff, and he used to take Kane around to open up for him. and to actually perform with him. And then that's how we develop a relationship. And Biz used to always tell Kane, when I get a deal, you're gonna get a deal. When I get on, you're gonna get on. And so when Biz got the deal with Cold Chillin' or Prism Records at first, and he came out with Make the Music with Your Mouth, Biz, and that was a hit. Once he came out with that, we was up next.
Wow.
And the rest was history.
Yeah, because I mean, at this time, I went to East Orange High School. I graduated '87. I went to school on Staten Island. On my campus, there was 2 rooms. There was the BLS Juice Crew room.
Right.
And it was the 98.7 Kiss Red Alert BDP room.
Right.
Now, in 1988, Kane was absolutely my favorite rapper. I was so deep into the consciousness that by like 90, 91, KRS just had my full attention. Right. But when you talk about these early Juice Crew battles, like how do you see it from your perspective, like the Juice Crew BDP battles? Like, was it as serious as some may say, or was you
it was a serious thing, but I'll be honest with you, like with Kane, we didn't really get involved in the battle because Kane and KRS was best friends. Like they was like really, really tight. So, like Kane always tells this story in his interviews, like, that KRS and rest in peace, Miss Melody, helped him move out of his mom's crib on Lafayette and Lewis. Miss Melody is helping Kane carry big sofas down the steps and so on and so forth. Like Chris and Kane was very tight. So Kane was on some Muhammad Ali shit. I ain't got nothing to do with them Vietcongs.
They ain't never called me no.
Right. That was Kane's stance. So that was my stance. Like if Kane was like, I'm not jumping in, then we all, had to follow what Kane wanted to do. So we never really indulged in none of the Juice Crew Boogie Down Productions issues or whatever the case is. We just kept saying to ourselves, like, we're gonna just keep doing what we doing, make our hit records, do what we need to do, and they got to handle that on their own.
Yeah,
I know, Fly Ty, who was the guy that ran Cold Chillin', from what I understand, he asked Kane to jump in, and Kane was like, "Nah, I ain't got no war with them Vietcongs."
Wow, yeah. When I heard that story about Chris and Melody helping Kane move out, that blew my head. 'Cause I heard that like way later. Chris told me like way later. Right. So I was like, what? He's like, yeah. But then he talks about going on tour, BDP and Juice Crew together. And that's something I didn't realize. Like I didn't know. Right. Like how was that, taking this, like, because it's different now. When Jokers is beefing on wax, it seems to be, like real. Well, but for that, it was like, Jokers went and got money off of it.
Yeah, but we wasn't, if I recall, we wasn't on the tour. When all of the other thing too is that when all of that was going on, we was, as far as Kane, myself, we didn't really have a record out yet. When Bridge is Over, we still didn't really have a record out. Remember, our first record was, Just Rhyming with Biz was 87. So that was like, I think Bridge Over, that's like 86. We didn't really have a record yet. So when if they did do a tour, we wasn't a part of it. We didn't really get to witness that. You know what I mean, or whatever.
I see. Yeah. Nah, I see. But
now we done shows with Chris when we got successful. We done shows with KRS when we got successful. But during wartime, we wasn't even out yet. You know what I mean? Like we was just early stages of trying to get our feet in the door. You know what I'm saying? And so we wasn't where we was at. We didn't become to where we became until a little bit later on. And I think more like I said, 87, because Just Rhyming with Biz came out in 87. That's when we kind of jumped in. That's when that record came out. And then, now Kane wrote Have a Nice Day for Roxanne Shante, and in the Have a Nice Day record, she just is KRS-One. And so
Hard Body in that story about her running into KRS in the bank and KRS copping please. and then her going to the Kenya, you got to write this for me. Like
Right.
That's a crazy story. But just to see, like, like over time, the love that's shown, the respect. Because one thing that Chris always says, oh, Shan didn't have to answer me back.
Right.
Like if Shan doesn't answer me back, I don't have a career.
Right.
So like just the maturity in that, okay, this happened, but we could take this and make it much more, much bigger.
Right.
Kind
No
of
question. No question.
Yeah.
I mean, and just the I think that we also take for granted how powerful radio was at that time. The radio was just so powerful, and I think Flex. It was I saw Funkmaster Flex say in a documentary, and I didn't really realize until Flex said it in a documentary about how the Juice Crew, how we had so much access to radio because of Mr. Magic.
Yeah.
And that Marley can just cut a record and it's going straight to WBLS on that Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Red Alert and Chuck Chill Out, they wasn't producers, they was DJ, they wasn't producers. So they didn't, of course, later on, they started they started having artists like Chris and Jungle Brothers and so on and so forth. And even with Chuck Chill Out and Cool Chip or whatever the case is, but the access that Marley had producing a record and then fresh out of it, coming out of his studio in Astoria, Queens, or when he was in Westchester or whatever, is going straight to radio. We just had the luxury, being the Juice Crew, we had the luxury to where whether we came out with a record and it was hot or whack or whatever, we had that access to radio.
Well,
and I think a lot of artists was jealous of that. I think a lot of artists that wasn't a part of the Juice Crew,
yeah, for sure,
was jealous of that.
Oh, for sure, because you had it in the headlock. You trying to get exposure, trying to get heard. You can only go one way.
So back to the KRS One thing, when KRS did what he did, with the South Bronx, and then you take a person like Red Alert and Chuck, both of them. I don't think Chuck Chill Out gets enough credit the way he should, but Red and Chuck, taking that record and owning it, them being from the Bronx and them owning it and being like, this is our guy. Yes, it took for Shan to answer, but it also took like Red and Chuck to put their arm around Chris and be like, we're gonna take this the way Marley is taking Shan and Kane and Biz and G-Rap. We're gonna take you and be like, this joint, we're gonna blast this record on the radio, and beyond the diss records, just everything else from there on out.
Get behind it.
And Chuck always kind of took ownership and be like, you come with a new record, this is your home. Right. So that made a world of a difference as well. Because if there's no, if there's no Kiss FM, KRS don't have a voice.
Like, just go a little further into detail, because right now we're talking about 2 places in New York City that's playing hip hop, right? And like those are the 2 avenues on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and mix show radio primarily, right? How hard it is for artists to really get heard outside of, say, just the lower level politics, the greater politic, like regional radio. There's no such thing as regional radio anymore. You gotta be a national artist to really get exposure. Back then, you could win at one radio station.
No question. You could win at one radio station, but it was it's not like it is now, for the younger audience that's listening, where you can just send an email or you can just, put something on your SoundCloud or Mixcloud. Back then in the 80s with Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, Mr. Magic, Marley Marl, let's say if you came out with an independent record, meaning, you didn't have a major record company backing you, you just pressed up the record yourself. You had to physically run into Mr. Magic, physically run into Marley Marl or Red Alert or Chuck Chill Out in New York. You have to physically run into these guys at a club and give them your record and hope and pray to God that they're going to play your record. That was the only way you can get the record to them, was to physically see them and give it to them hand in hand and get the record to them. So it was a different dynamic back then in the 80s. It's so much easier now than it was in the 80s. And then slowly but surely, with the success of Magic and Marley and Red and Chuck, then, the Awesome Two, Special K, Teddy Ted, the Dirty Dozen, and just so many different other radio shows.
Silver Surfer,
Chris Armstrong and Bobito, like it started to grow and grow and grow, where more and more successful radio personalities got on New York radio. But when it was just Red, Magic, Marley, and Chuck, you had to physically see Red, Magic, Marley, and Chuck to get your record on, or it wasn't getting on.
Well, now, like the club culture at the time, how influential is the club culture to the growth of the culture and making that impact to radio? If you couldn't physically see these people, but you can get in the club and there's certain DJs like yourself who are just the people to be playing your record, like what's that like?
That was, I believe back in that era in the 80s, the club dictated what was going to get broken on the radio back then, because you take a record like Brooklyn's in the House by Cutmaster DC, that record got broke in the club, because when Red Alert would throw that record on in Latin Quarter or Union Square, Brooklyn would go crazy and they ready to rob somebody, or they wind up robbing somebody. Right. When Chuck Chill Out played "Here We Go" by Run DMC, a live version of "Here We Go" live at the Funhouse.
I was there, by the way.
Those records got broke in the club and in Latin Quarter, Union Square, the Funhouse, the Roxy. Those records got broke in the club and then got took in the radio later on. So the club was super vital for records in the 80s to get broken. That's how the Red and the Chucks dictated what they was going to take to the radio if it was going to work in the club. So it was vital.
Yeah, nice. Now, we say the birthplace of hip hop is Bronx, New York. KRS-One explains that hip hop actually has no birth date and existed everywhere. We just officially say it's August 11th, 1973 in the Bronx, right? Brooklyn. And you got artists like, who did Inspector Gadget?
The Bad Boys.
Bad Boys.
K-Love.
Now, and she's the first MC beatbox on record, right?
Probably the first, female beatbox, yeah.
Yeah, I know JJ Fad likes to claim that, but it's really the Bad Boys.
It's K-Love. It's K-Love. That's way before Supersonic, man. That's
K-Love. Like, what's some of these like early Brooklyn groups, crews that's rocking before the shit blows up?
Well, I mean, I'm
glad
we
get to Kane and Big.
I'm glad you asked that question, because we talk about the birth of hip hop in the Bronx and so on and so forth. I mean, even Harlem gets its flowers for so many legendary MCs, but Brooklyn, man, growing up in Brooklyn, we had our heroes, we had our local heroes too, rest in peace to my DJ father, DJ Lance. Back then he was known as Master D. He was one of the, Master D, aka DJ Lance, was him and his DJ partner Von K and Keithy B. Those guys, they was from Roosevelt Projects in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. They was the one going from all different parts of the hood around different parts of Brooklyn. I remember growing up and they would come to my projects and hang Serwin Vega speakers. They would hang them on the basketball rim. And the speakers is dangling on the basketball rim. So you're hearing the ambiance of these speakers being glaring out into the park because it's being hung by a basketball rim. That's Master D, that's Von K, that's Keithy B. These are people that a lot of y'all may have never heard of that definitely set the tone for Brooklyn way before Houdini, way before Fat Boys and Divine Sounds and so on and so forth. Grandmaster Flowers is another legendary.
I was going to ask you about Grandmaster Flowers.
Another legend, one of the first DJs I ever seen that, he had a generator. Back in them days in the late 70s, early 80s, we used to, unplug the street light. I don't know if it's like this now in New York, but you would take the plate underneath the street light, you break the plate, and then there would be a socket there. And you could just plug in your power cord from the street light. And then that's how we would DJ outside. But Grandmaster Flowers took it to another level where he was the first DJ that had a generator. And so when he would come out and play, you had to put money in the hat for the gas for the generator.
Oh yeah, keep it going.
He wasn't playing. So he would come around the park, and everybody would put dollars, quarters, whatever for money for that generator because they wanted to hear him play.
Wow.
So those are some of the DJ heroes. Even Jimmy Spicer.
Super Rhymes.
He's from Brooklyn, man. He's from Brooklyn, as you know. So this is way before.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace to Jimmy Spicer. This is way before Kane, and this is way before Fat Boys and Houdini. People like Jimmy Spicer set the tone for Brooklyn. Brooklyn hip hop. You mentioned the Bad Boys.
Mm-hmm.
There was a group called Freddie B and the Mighty Mike Masters.
Wow.
They had a song called The Main Event. I'm gonna play it for you right now. Nice. If you remember this song.
Come on, y'all. We get special treats by DJ Mr. C.
If you remember this.
Best time what? Best time what? Best time gotta be dedicated in the world.
Oh yeah. Word.
Those was our Brooklyn anthems. We can talk about the top billing Audio 2s and the Ghost Stetsasonic.
Oh wow.
But that was records like that. Those was our Brooklyn anthems at that time, and so it was all of those records that led to the success of Fat Boys, Houdini, Audio 2, and then Kane. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You all right?
Yeah. Nah. You dropping.
Comment. Okay, I saw the
comment.
comment.
I put a comment up. I like to keep the people out in the building
absolutely
engaged, interacting, and let you know that you're being saluted. You get your flowers. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about. So yeah. So all right. So we got that established, and we know the Kane situation, right? Can I ask you about the Notorious B.I.G. situation? How that, I know he's from your neighborhood, but how'd you?
Yeah, I met Biggie through his first DJ, 50 Grand. Me and 50 Grand grew up together in the Bed-Stuy area. Remember I told you when I was 21, I moved to Gates Avenue, I moved back to where I was raised. And so when I moved over there, that's when I got to know 50 Grand because he lived on Lexington Avenue between Bedford and Nostrand, and I lived on Gates Avenue between Franklin and Bedford. And that's how me and 50 Grand developed our relationship from when I moved to Gates Avenue. And then he told me about this dude named Biggie Smalls, and he was like, this dude is nice. And they had did a basement demo. When they did the basement demo, it was like very airy and hissy. And so when they did the demo, I listened to it and I was like, wow, this sounds incredible. So this was the demo.
Yo, we got DJ 50 Grand, Big T, RCM Money, and the undisputed B.I.G. That's me. A whole lot of want Big to make a demo tape, especially that bump again. Oh, this going out to you. Recognize. Yo, 50, what's this?
It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo.
A real demo.
It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo. It's a demo.
Murder of mass made hemp maker. B.I.G. sold the mic, called the Undertaker. Make an appointment, schedule an interview. Because you know what big man's about to do. 50 Grand on the technique at the right beat. Brothers want to hear the words big man speak. The microphone, I'm ripping. The burner got the clipping. Slamming them seeds like Scotty Pippen.
So that was so Hakeem. That's 1991. That went with that demo. That was 91. Now listen.
Thank you.
You listen to the demo. He's actually rhyming to the sample that me and Kane used for Ain't No Half.
Hip Steppin'. Yeah.
So this was like when I first heard this from 50 Grand. This was like Kane all over again. This is Big Daddy Kane Part 2. It was like meeting Kane all over again. Because I'm hearing this guy rhyme to the beat to one of our biggest hit records, and I'm hearing his flow in this is 91. I'm hearing this flow, and I'm like, you got to introduce me to this dude. So when 50 Grand introduced me to Big, he brought him to my house, and the first thing Big was saying was like, yo man, don't be promising me nothing, man. Don't be telling me you're gonna do something, and then it don't happen. He's saying it, the way I'm doing it is the way he.
I can see it.
He was very shy. He was very shy when I first met him. Very shy. He had his eyes go. Don't be telling me you're gonna do something and you don't do it. And I'm like, nah, we're gonna remake the demo because what you just heard is the actual demo from Grant's house. But we redid the demo, and at the time, Maddie C from the Source magazine was doing this contest called Unsigned Hype, where you submit a demo with the possibility of getting a record deal. And so I told Big we're gonna do the demo at my house. I'm gonna submit it to Maddie and let's see what happens. And we redid the demo and I submitted to Maddie and Maddie went crazy. And he submitted, he featured the demo in the Source with 50 Grand and Biggie. And we were supposed to do a deal with Relativity Records. Relativity Records was the same label that Common was on and I want to say EZE. Yeah, EZE was on Relativity. And we were supposed to do a deal with them, but the deal, it was a shitty deal. So I decided not to do the deal with Relativity and just told Big, let's just sit it out and wait it out. Of course, he was upset. So then I started shopping a demo for my album. I was working on a Mr. C album. So because I got inspired through Pete Rock. Pete Rock put out this record called The Creator. And when Pete Rock put out The Creator, I said, yo, if I can rhyme, I think I can rhyme and do an album and, do like what Pete Rock did or whatever. So I was shopping a Mr. C demo. It was a 5-song demo. And it was a song with me rapping on it. I don't have the song on my laptop. I have
everything but that.
Yeah, I have. The song was called Mr. Official. And Master Ace actually wrote the record for me. I don't have it in my laptop. But it was that. I had a Biggie song on the demo. I had a Blase song because, in case people don't know, I used to manage Blase.
It's my dude right there.
So I had a Blase song and 2 other songs. So the Biggie demo, the Biggie song that was on my Mr. C album demo. The name of the song was called Biggie Got the Hype Shit. I'm gonna play a little bit of it for you now. Getting a treat tonight, bro.
Yes, sir.
Well, who is Biggie Small?
Notorious Biggie Small, I'm full effect. Got my DJ 50 Grand, that's what I'm saying. I'ma drop a nice blow rhyme on this funky track. You know how we get down, yo. Shake your head and say damn when the words from Big Man. Explode like an ash can while DJ 50 Grand kick beats like Van Damme. That fighting ass introducing the Supreme Bigger.
So that was on my demo. That was on the Mr. C album demo. That was on the album. This record has never came out. So all my people that's on the live, that's here, y'all getting a treat because this record is never.
Oh yeah.
Never been released anywhere. The rhymes you ain't never nowhere.
Thank you.
So as I'm shopping the Mr. C album, all the record labels from Jive Records to Def Jam, all these different labels, they're like, yeah, the songs is cool, but who is this Biggie Smalls record? What is this Biggie Smalls? So I was like, yeah, this is my artist, whatever. They was like, yo, Mr. C album, we ain't really with that. We want this guy. We want this Biggie Smalls. So that was happening at the same time as the Unsigned Hype thing happening. They both was happening at the same time.
Buzz getting heavy.
So yeah, it's getting heavy, right? So then around that same time, a dude named Puff Daddy, calls Maddie up with Unsigned Hype, and he asks Maddie, I know you got the contest, who's the best rapper you got over there? And Maddie tells Puff, I got this guy, Biggie Smalls and the Hitman 50 Grand. And then the first thing that Puff asks is Maddie, well, how does he look? Maddie tells Puff, well, he ain't the best looking dude, but he can rap his ass off. So
yeah.
So, Puff asks Maddie, who handles him? And he's like, Mr. C. So he gave back then. That's when we had 1-800-SCOT pages. So Puff hit me on the 1-800-SCOT page, and we set up a meeting. We set up a meeting at Uptown Records, Me, Puff. It was me, Big, and Puff when we went to Puff's office, and we get in the office. I'll never forget. It was wintertime. We had our winter coats on, and we get in the office, and 5 minutes in, Puff asked Big to rhyme right on the spot. Yo, kick a rhyme right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember the rhyme, but Big kicked the rhyme in the office. And after Big kicked the rhyme, Puff was like, yo, I can have a record out on you by the summer. Would you be cool with that?
Whoa.
And so when Puff said that to Big with the shyness, yo, just talk to Mr. C, man. whatever C say, yo, whatever C say. So then me and Puff started having further discussions, and Puff was like, yo, I just got to introduce you to Andre Harrell, and let's see, once he get his approval.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a second meeting, me, Big, Andre Harrell, and Puff. We had a second meeting where we were supposed to go to Sylvia's restaurant in Harlem. Where we was meeting at Uptown and driving up to Harlem to Sylvia. So we meet them in front of Uptown. We get in the car. So we go eat. We go to Sylvia's to eat. We just talking small shit. Like Andre Harrell is asking Big about his family. That nigga Big barely answering them. He's just eating collard greens. And
getting in.
He barely answering Andre Harrell's questions. So on the ride back from Sylvia's, Andre Harrell was like, yo, kick around for me, Big, kick something. But this time we was prepared.
Mm.
So I said, Andre, can I pop in a cassette with a beat? And he's like, yeah. So I threw the beat on in the cassette. And I don't have it, that was just, and Big kicked the rhyme in the car with the beat. And by the time we got out the car and got back to Uptown, Andre Harrell was like, okay, so Puff, I have the paperwork for you, and we'll get everything going right now, right away. We'll get everything. And
Wow.
that's how we got the ball rolling. So Biggie was originally signed to Uptown Records, not bad.
Okay.
Not bad.
Okay, that wasn't original. He really signed it Uptown.
He was originally signed to Uptown.
Oh, see, I always thought that before that deal happened, the split between Andre and Puff had happened already.
Nah, he was signed to Uptown. He was signed to Uptown, and then what a lot of people don't know, like half of the Ready to Die album was recorded through Uptown, and the other half of the album was recorded through Bad Boy.
Now, there was an original version of Ready to Die that went out with different tracks on it, though. Same songs, different, maybe like 6 or 7 songs. But the tracks were different. Like when we got to the album, it was different.
Maybe it was different samples and stuff like that. Maybe it was like different versions of records.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was like different versions. But when Big was, what a lot of people don't know is that when Big was signed to Uptown, half of the Ready to Die album was recorded. Mm-hmm. If you really listen to the Ready to Die album, so like let me play something. If you really listen to
no, don't do that. Don't do that. Because YouTube will yank it.
No, I'm only going to play a quick something.
Okay. Okay.
So if you like, let's say if I play something like, just real quick. Turn himself in, he had to do a bid. A 1 to 3, he be home the end of 93. I'm ready to get this paper, G. You with me? So like that record was recorded when he was on Uptown. But a record like Juicy, Big Papa, Unbelievable, Who Shot Ya was recorded when he was on Bad Boy. And like, if you really listen to Biggie's vocal tone,
harder.
His vocal pitch was much higher on songs like Gimme the Loot, Machine Gun Funk, the actual song Ready to Die. His voice was higher because the album was basically what I'm trying to say is the album was recorded in a 2-year period. The Ready to Die album. So when you listen to Live from Bedford-Stuyvesant, Son, the livest one, he's more
mature,
right? And his voice is deeper and it's more, he got a more of a relaxed flow.
Yeah.
That's because the album was recorded in a 2-year time span. Now the album didn't come out to 94, but Big was recording the album since 92. So when Puff and Andre split and Puff left Uptown, Puff had to make a choice to either redo the whole album, the half of the album that was done on Uptown, or buy the masters from Andre that was already done. So he brought the masters from Andre, like that half of the album. He brought it, and it's rumored that he bought it for $1 million.
Damn.
But it was worth it. At the end of the day, it's worth it.
Well, see, Puff, Sean Combs, the brilliant man he is. People look at him a certain way, but then it's these types of decisions and sacrifices that were made that allowed a bunch of other things to happen.
Right.
So it's like, when you spell that out, that's something that the average person doesn't know.
Right.
I thank you for sharing that.
Puff, I guess Puff vision was like, I'm halfway done with the album. I don't want to start from scratch.
Damn.
And, then the Juicy and the Big Papas come, and then the Unbelievable and the Who Shot Yous come. That comes, all them records was at the tail end of the album. But the actual title cut, Ready to Die, Give Me the Loot, that ain't right with the friend. That's the first half of the album.
Wow.
That's 92, 93.
Yeah. As Street and Gangsta as that album is, one of my favorite albums. It's a conscious album to me. Because the way even though it's recorded in 2 different years, there's a message to it. Right. Like he's describing something, he's describing the environment, he's describing how he's coming up through the environment, what he's doing, but then, committing suicide, understanding the effect that he's having on his family around him. Like takes you to step outside yourself and look at your environment and dissect it and describe it in a way that, not a lot of people can do.
Yeah, I mean that, to me, that's just the pen in you. That's the pen talk. That's the rapper. That's the rapper. And but I agree with you, but I don't think people would think of it the way that you're thinking of it. They're not. I don't, because I never even thought of it like that. I never really thought of it like that, as that the Ready to Die was a conscious album. But because you are a rapper yourself, you're looking at it from the creative standpoint of it. And you're right, it is a conscious album. Now that you're saying it to me, all these years, 20 some odd years that album's been out, I never looked at it like that. I looked at it from, he was just really talking about what he was actually really going through, like his real life. His mother having breast cancer. My mama got cancer on the
breast. I was being fucking stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the way that you put it, it is a conscious album. Hindsight 2020, it is. I agree with you.
Yeah, like it took a lot of self-reflection for him to write it. A lot of things that he put down. He's talking from a real, especially when you look at the story, he's talking from a real life experience and all these thoughts he's having, and how it eats at him, and like that's just,
and I think
it's a very honest look at yourself.
I think it's also a testament to Puff too. And a lot of people don't know also, the name of the album was not going to be called Ready to Die. Biggie wanted to call the album the Teflon Don. He did not want to call the album. The original title of the album was called Teflon Don, because back then that's when John Gotti was the shit in New York. Yep. So even if you listen to some of Biggie's rhymes from that album, he talks about the Teflon Don and all that. He wanted to call it that, but Puff's whole thing was he wanted to tell a story with an album. He wanted to have a storyline with the album. So that's all Puff's vision right there.
Nice.
A la The Chronic, a la, those type of albums. He wanted to have a storyline with the album. And so that was Puff. That was all Puff.
All right. But now that you brought that up, The Chronic, so I was a school teacher back in the day. There was a time when, like, I would not say the word nigga or bitch. If you said nigga around me, we were in an argument. Like, I have to argue with you. Right. I heard The Chronic, and it was so perfectly done to me that it's like I'm willing to do things now I never thought I'd say, do. Look at you, gave you a different look at the world. Wow. The Chronic album to me is a conscious album, because it takes some stepping outside the third person to describe what's going on in the environment, right? There's a beginning, middle, and end, right? So there was a time when New York hip hop kind of got stiff arm to the side, and that Chronic represented like, oh my God, our sound needs to be that sound. We need to be not necessarily that sound, but our music needs to be on that level, compete on that level.
Right.
And then Ready to Die was for us, the Chronic.
No question, because we had, let's take artists like Brand Nubian and Nice and Smooth, and we had artists that was successful. Onyx, I can go on and on from artists from that mid 90s, from that early 90s, 91, 92, 93, that was successful, but they wasn't selling as many records as Dre and Snoop was. And so when that Chronic came through, but it was a buildup. You got to remember the deep cover record from the movie. They had, now we call it a rollout. Now the term is rollout. Their rollout back then was so crazy because you had the deep cover with the movie. Then you had G Thing with that incredible video. And then you had the album. So their rollout, which was not probably on purpose rollout, but their rollout was crazy. And we didn't have none of that. We didn't have the preparation, the lead in, the way that they had it. So back to Big, Party and Bullshit, Who's the Man soundtrack.
Yeah.
So Puff knew what he was doing. Party and Bullshit, Who's the Man soundtrack with Ed Lover and Dre, the biggest cats on TV, on MTV. So, the movie was successful. People knew the record from the movie and all of that, whatever. Then it got into Juicy. Then, okay, that was Puff's rollout. So Puff knew what he was doing as far as giving Big that look with that. Party and Bullshit was so essential. The two records that was essential for Big's bridge into that Ready to Die album was Party and Bullshit and the Mary J. Blige Real Love remix. Look Up in the Sky.
It's a bird, it's a plane. Yep.
So those two records was vital for the bridge into Juicy. And that's what, got Big and the success that it got, the Ready to Die album, the success that it got, and put us, we all say, Brooklyn was back on the map again because of that. But it took the same type of direction that Dre and Snoop did. People just don't look at it that way, but it's the same. It was the same route.
Yeah. Now that project, the Ready to Die project, actually before the Ready to Die project, was a marketing, one of the greatest marketing schemes ever hatched in hip hop, which was the Big Mac sampler. Right. So the power of that connected to these conferences that used to happen back in the day. I just want you to talk about the power of like the music conferences, the college radio conferences, because understanding how music gets broken, how the culture expands through the different channels, I think is really important. And you coming from your position, you just got the keen insight.
I know for me as a DJ and even back then still being tied with Big Daddy Kane, at that time in the early 90s, like New Music Seminar. We used to have this. We used to have this thing called the New Music Seminar. It used to be held at the Marriott Hotel in Times Square every year. That was essential for people like myself to meet different people from all around the country to just talk hip hop, or just to, back to what I said earlier. Back then, there was no flash drive, there was no emails. You would go to the New Music Seminar and meet somebody from the West Coast or somebody from the South, and y'all would, you would get vinyl from artists from the South or artists from, the Midwest, or, from the West Coast. And we would get these different cassettes and vinyl, and we would swap records and build relationships and so on and so forth. So you had New Music Seminar, you had Jack the Rapper, was that in Houston, if I'm not mistaken? That was
Jack the Rapper was Georgia, Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Then you had the Gavin, then you had the Gavin convention in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Those conventions was like super, super important for all of us as DJs and radio programmers and college radio people, and street DJs to just network. I mean, I remember, people DJs that couldn't even get into the new music seminar, they didn't have membership or you couldn't get in, they would just wait outside the Marriott to see who they could see, who can come in and out that they could see and build with. So it was man, it was essential, it was important, and that was a big part of making hip hop become bigger than what it was from the mid to the late 80s into the 90s. Was the seminars was very, very important.
And the reason why I say is earlier, I talked about doors being closed as different avenues we just couldn't go, and these doors had to be broken down. LL interviewed the Beastie Boys on Rock the Bells a few years ago, and this question was brilliant. Is he asked them about their how can I say in the 80s, how hard was it for them to get access to radio? And Mike D was straight up honest. He said, listen, it was meetings we were in with a program director said, we don't play rap music here, but we'll play y'all. And, now we live in a day where, color is not really the barrier anymore, or the sound of the music isn't as much the barrier. And there's a lot of these different, we talk about college radio, the networking that went on, the club, club DJs, just the different things that we take for granted that grew the culture, made the culture expand and explode. Now, in terms of like what we got right now, going from terrestrial radio now to satellite radio, how is that transition? It's like two different formats.
Well, I mean,
it's a competition.
I don't want to, like just before I even talk about, satellite radio, me being on LL Cool J's Rock the Bells radio, I had a 21-year run on Hot 97 radio station in New York. I was on Hot 97 from 1993 to 2014. And I seen so much in that 21-year run of being at Hot 97, from the Jay-Z Nas battle firsthand, just seeing going at it, and Flex putting the contest up all day. Who's gonna win? Who won the battle? Jay-Z and Nas, or seeing stuff like that, and even the Jay-Z R. Kelly beef, when they had their beef and at the Garden, and then they brought it to the radio, and so much stuff I've seen in my 21-year run at Hot 97. It was back that time at Hot 97, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, because it was like, once again, everything was just firsthand. Everything was, now, when I started at Hot 97 in 93, now everything is getting a little bit more serious as far as, the rappers taking this thing seriously as far as the money aspect of everything and how lucrative this thing can be. So, and rappers started having ownership and owning labels with a Rockefeller and a Death Row and No Limit and Cash Money and Two Live Records. It started becoming more of a serious thing when I started doing the Hot 97 run. And Hot 97 in New York, being the first radio station to play hip hop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, was definitely the catalyst to make artists get accepted in regular rotation, meaning you can hear a Wu-Tang record at 2:00 in the afternoon, not just at night. So the success of Hot 97 definitely helped. It was hand in hand. The success of Hot 97 gave the success of all the rappers from the mid-90s, from Nas to Biggie to Hove
to Channel Live,
to Dre and Snoop to Ice Cube, to everybody, you name it, anybody that came from the mid-90s. As far as New York, the tri-state area concerned, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, they wouldn't have got the success without the availability of Hot 97 being a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hip-hop radio station. So that was huge. But then, my transformation into satellite radio, I've been on Rock the Bells radio for 2 years now. LL gave me this opportunity to do this show called The Set It Off Show, which I'm on Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. East Coast time, and every Saturday, 2 to 4 p.m. East Coast time. The big difference with satellite radio as opposed to terrestrial radio, which is free radio, for people that don't know what terrestrial radio means, it's just you're playing for a broader audience. So I know that ever since I left Hot 97 in 2014, I always wanted to be on satellite radio. I always wanted to have that challenge to play for the country, not just playing for New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. So with me doing Rock the Bells, even though I'm from New York, I'm not just playing New York hip hop. I'm playing Mac Dre. I'm playing Atmosphere. If anybody know who Atmosphere is from Minnesota, I'm playing Trina, Trick Daddy, UGK, King T. I'm playing tonight on my show. I play Cardinal Official from Toronto.
Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing, because a lot of Canadians listen to the show. So I'm playing screw music. I'm playing go-go. I'm anything that's classic, that's hip hop, that's timeless. I get it on, but I enjoy it because I get to display my musical library to a broader audience. Because not everything is Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas, or not everything is Dre and Snoop, and not everything is Outkast. There's a whole nother. There's so many different successful rappers from all around the country that needs to be heard. And so I'm just proud that I can play an artist like Little Rob, and artists like that to for them to get their flowers and for them to get their exposure. And beyond that, I'm thankful that somebody like LL understands that the importance of letting all these artists get heard. Because normally you may have a boss that don't get it. But somebody like LL, my program director, Jay Hudson, they get it. They understand that we got to play Awesome Dre, legendary pioneer hip hop artist from Detroit. We got to get them on. You know what I mean? We got to, these artists has to be heard because they paved the way for their different markets all around the country. So that's the advantage I have with doing this Rock the Bells. And it's been 2 years and some change now, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, and your host lineup represents that as well, because you got folks from all around the country, the Bum B's, the Too Shorts, and all the way to the Redmans, of course, Shantae, everybody. Right. So, people from all around. You got my man Epps on the joint. I'm down here. I'm down here in South Florida. Right. And it's like, it's like everybody come for the ride, and I enjoy that about Rock the Bells. And,
it's strategically the way LL and my program director Jay is doing it is like, even though LL is from Queens, New York, and Jay is from Detroit, they understand the assignment of we need to please the whole North America, who's listening to the channel, and try to please everybody and make sure that we got East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South, Canada. We actually have a shout out to Scorpio from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Yeah, he has a show on Rock the Bells called Hip Hop International, where he's playing international hip hop every Thursday night, every Wednesday night, Thursday morning at midnight East Coast time. So it just go to show you that LL and they trying to cover the market. They trying to cover all bases. So
yeah, I'm definitely loving it. So I'm gonna throw some questions at you. Who's your top five?
That's easy. No particular order. My top five is Kane, Rakim, Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas. Those are my five.
Wow. Okay.
No particular order.
Outside of yourself, top five DJs.
I'm just gonna say New York. I'll speak of New York. Top five DJs. You want me to say all time or club DJ?
Well, let's go club.
New York club or just
no international.
No particular order. Kid Capri. No particular order. SNS.
SNS.
SNS. Kid Capri. People talk a lot of shit about this dude, but this dude Funkmaster Flex, man, this guy has continued to stay relevant and to, he does not get the credit that he deserves as far as, back to the Hot 97 thing of talking about, Flex was the guinea pig at Hot 97. He was the first one hired. When Hot 97 got on board, he was the first one hired. So when Flex, when Hot 97 flipped the format and they was a house club music station / pop station, and they flipped to hip hop and they put Flex on there, Do you know that people used to call Flex and call him a monkey? You'll get that monkey music off. Nigga, get that music. Like Flex used to.
No, well, again, doors was shut,
Right.
and people don't understand the barriers that was in the way.
So Flex gets. I hold Flex in a super, super high regard. So back to my top 5, you got Capri, SNS, Flex, DJ Self, and my 5th part would probably be and I don't want no DJ to take offense, but my 5th would probably be Camilo. That's my top 5 DJs. But now my top 5 New York radio DJs of all time, because I gotta put this in top 5.
Let's go.
New
Let's
York
go. Let's
DJs
go.
of all
Let's
time.
go. Let's go.
Funkmaster Flex, Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, Marley Marl, and me.
There you go.
So those are my top 5 all-time favorite New York radio DJs.
Wow.
But I'm not afraid to speak top 5. So you want to throw any top 5?
Okay, yeah. No, that's right. I can say top 5, the top 5 queens on the mic. Lady MCs.
Female MCs?
Female MCs.
Lauryn Hill is one.
Okay.
Latifah. Light.
Okay.
I said Lauryn, Latifah, Light. I'm gonna put Kim and Foxy in there. And yeah, we know that Big wrote for Kim. Okay, we know that. We understand that. But I'm putting Kim in there for impact.
All right. Wait. So for clarity's sake, Big wrote for Kim. I got
Biggie reference vocals on Kim's songs if you want to hear it.
Oh yeah, I do. Come on, hell yeah! What? Come on, this is historic right now. Only on Madism TV, ladies and gentlemen. We got the General DJ Mr. C. Dropping jewels on us right now.
Let me see what I can get. Okay, hold up. Okay, here's one.
If Peter Piper take them, I bet you Biggie bust them. He probably tried to f them. I told him not to trust them. Lyrically, I dust them. Off like lead, hit hard like sledgehammers. If with that platinum grabber, I ever. Diamond cluster hustler. Queen bitch, supreme bitch. Kill a nigga for my nigga by any means, bitch. Murder scene bitch, clean bitch. Disease free bitch.
And listen, I don't want nobody hitting Kim up and saying I'm exposing Kim. Listen, it's documented that Big wrote for Kim and C's, but Kim's impact is bar none. Probably, I think Kim. I really believe that Kim had the biggest. I think Kim had the biggest impact between Kim and Roxanne Shante. I think them two had the biggest impact on female rappers in hip hop history. That's just my opinion. I feel like Kim and Shante, two of the biggest as far as impact that they made. But lyrically, I'm going back to the top 5. I'm going Lauryn, Latifah, Light, Kim, Foxy, and I gotta put what's her name on the bubble, the Lady of Rage. She's on that bubble. Lady of Rage is on that bubble for me.
All right. Well, I want to know, out of all of them, who's actually writing?
Out of all of them, who's actually writing? You may know something that I don't know.
Now I'm just gonna ask people to do their own research. I ain't gonna put nobody on blast like that.
You may know something I know, but I will say this though. Back to those 5, whether they wrote or not, their impact.
Now, when you talk about impact, too, right? Impact,
right?
But it's a duo. Salt and Pepper. It's a trio because you gotta include Spin. I think, right? Do you?
What you talk about as far as
impact, female MCs?
Oh yeah,
impact.
I mean Salt and Pepper. I wasn't thinking rap group. I mean they're the greatest female rap group of all time. They're the queens from Queens. They're the queens from Queens. So they're the greatest female. There's nobody. There's nobody that can touch. They are. I mean, I'm speechless. How impactful Salt and Pepper is. It makes me speechless because you can't. They don't even. Nobody has the right to even stand next to them in their realm. Nobody deserves that right. No one.
It's here, and it's Salt and Pepper.
Right. So, I wasn't thinking female rap group. I was thinking more solo. But
and then what's up with Brooklyn? MC Light.
I said Light. I said
Light.
I said Lauren, Latifah, Light, Foxy Kim. And I had four. I got 4 females from Brooklyn in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
That's right. Foxy Kim, Brooklyn all day.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, man. Wow. Yo, Mrs. C, thank you so much for sitting with us, bro. And just taking the interview places. We dropping gems on folks, giving us exclusives, Biggie, studio sessions. I didn't expect all that, bro. That's huge.
I appreciate it. I just want to mention to everybody too before I leave, because you didn't mention this and you probably slipped your mind, or you probably didn't even realize it. But to everybody, I'm on this radio station here in New York City as well. There's a radio station in New York called 94.7 The Block. And it's a straight throwback radio station. We play nothing but classic throwback hip hop from the 90s and 2000. And I just started last week.
Wow.
And I do, if anybody remembers when I used to do the throwback at noon at Hot 97, my years at Hot 97, we brung that show back on 94.7 The Block. So I'm on Monday through Friday, 12 noon, 94.7 The Block, FM radio. We brought back the throwback at noon. It's throwback hip hop. We play throwback hip hop all day. Ed Lover's on the station. Nick Cannon is on the station. DJs. I'm on the station Monday through Friday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. The return of the throwback at noon. And you can, if you're out of town watching this, or even if you're in New York and you want to get the app, you get the Odyssey app. AUDACY. AUDACY. Get the Odyssey app if you want to check me out. The response has been super overwhelming.
Giving the people what they need, right?
Yeah. So between that and doing Rock the Bells, you're talking 2 radio shows a day. I'd be exhausted.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world.
And you still doing parties, clubs, venues, block, everything.
Man, so it's a blessing. It's just knock on wood. It's a blessing, man. So I just wanted to throw that in there too as well.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you so much, man. Like I said, sitting down with Madison TV, spending some time and dropping jewels on us, bro. And that's what it is. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share this stream, hit the bell. We got DJ Mr. C. People need to know what time it is. Somebody said Rod Digger, Jean Grey. No doubt. Yo, this is Hakeem Green. We out. Peace.
Peace, everybody.